afternoon. Okay. Good afternoon and welcome to Link. Oh, wait a minute. At least this thing is just a minute. I think they want me to. Okay, good. Here we go. Good afternoon and welcome to Link. My guest today is Miss Marva Berry. Welcome to Link, Marva.
Thank you, Laverne.
I am
Thank
so
you for
happy to
having me.
finally get you here. And I am, let me see, make sure I got everything together. Well, not working. Oh, there we go. Okay. That wasn't good. I'm gonna do it all over again.
Okay.
Okay. Good afternoon and welcome to Link. My guest today is Miss Marva Berry. Welcome, Marva.
Thank you, Laverne.
Okay, didn't happen. Uh, Oh, now it did. Let's see again. Let's boom, boom, boom. All right. All right. Here we go. Third take, and this is going to be our final take. Here we go.
Okay.
Good afternoon and welcome to Link. Our guest today is Miss Marva Berry. Hello, Marva. Hello, Miss Marva Berry.
Hi, Miss Laverne.
I'm just so happy to have finally get you here on Link. And
Um,
a million trillion things I want to talk to you about, but I'm going to start by asking you, what is the Learning Tree?
well, the Learning Tree is an after-school program that was first initiated in 1981 in Brooklyn when I was living there. And at the time in 1981, children were being abducted in Atlanta, and it was became a national story. And I went to a rally. A friend of mine and I went to a rally in Harlem, and we were really very moved by it. But then we said we couldn't do anything for the kids in Atlanta, but we could do something for the kids in our community, in our neighborhood. So that summer, we started a little summer program, and it developed by the end of the summer into people asking us, well, can you just keep, the after school program, daycare going? I have to go to work. I need the help. And that's how it began. And it,
Marva,
yes,
for those of us who don't know the gravity of what you just said, what was that event all about?
uh,
That,
the event of children disappearing
yeah,
and being abducted.
yeah, everybody doesn't know.
Oh, I don't know why I thought that there was such a poignant moment in our history in 1981 where kids were being abducted on a large level. Some of them were bodies were found, and eventually a young man by the name of Wayne, I can't remember his last name, was was put on trial for one of them. But no one still to this day knows what happened to many of those children. But to bring it back to today and when the program began again in DC, when I was teaching in DC, um, we had the same type of disappearing. Our kids are being disappeared every day. We had kids being snatched off the streets on their way to school. I mean, there are thousands of Black women and children and boys as well being abducted. A lot of it has to do with organ trafficking for our young people. So, what we saw and what we still have a need for are for after school programs. And most after school programs are for elementary age children. However, a lot of the kids that are getting in trouble right now out here are adolescents. Elementary school children their parents tend to look closer at them, but there's still a large market for body parts of our children. So I don't know how best to explain, how more to explain the gravity of that, but it's still occurring. 81, when it was happening in Atlanta, was the first time it was brought to our attention. But it hasn't let up since then. In fact, the first grant that we were funded for was to in DC when our program began. When we began to get funding for our program, our first grant was to work with children in the shelter, all children who were eligible for TANF, whose parents couldn't afford to pay for after school program. The grant that we first received was about close to $200,000 for the year to run after school and as well as summer programs. And that grant was for 3 years, and we maintained it for the 3 years. And that money, the third year, was put into the 21st Century After School Program, which is a federal program that's national. It's throughout the country, but I don't think every state is taking advantage of that funding, and a lot of times it's sent back. So we've actually ran our program through that 21st century learning, 21st century community learning program. And that's the program we're currently working with in DC public schools. We're funded, DC pays our staffing, it pays for our programming, for our materials, equipment. We've been able to purchase computers for every child that's in our program. We've been able to take them on excursions and field experiences that they wouldn't ordinarily have. For instance, the Baltimore Aquarium is $30 per child to go and to experience that. So without a doubt, most of the kids in Baltimore will never see the inside of the aquarium. We were able to provide that with the funding that we received, along with a lot of other things that we've been able to do with children. It's a STEM program, which focuses on science, technology, engineering, and math. We have a very strong focus on environmental science, helping children to understand the importance of the planet, of preserving our planet, and basically like.
So this has been, am I counting right? Is this a 40-year effort?
Well, altogether, it's probably about that. When I started the Learning Tree, I wasn't teaching. I wasn't in the New York City public school. I had 6 children of my own. I went back to school to complete my degree. And by 84, I was in the New York City school system. In 89, 90, I moved to the DC area. Even though I was planning to move to Atlanta since then. My mother, who had moved to Maryland, had gotten sick, and I ended up coming down to DC temporarily to help her in Maryland. And I ended up being there for close to 15, 20 years actually in DC public schools. And that's a whole nother story.
Okay, so what made you take an interest? First of all, what is STEM? What does that mean? What does it stand for?
Did you ask me what basically is STEM, or what age?
What is STEM?
STEM stands for science, the S, T for technology, E for engineering, and M for math. And those are the disciplines right now that are most needed in a modern day society.
So what made you focus in on that and
Actually, what made me focus in on science as an elementary school teacher was my own deficiency, science and math. I don't recall having much science. I went to Catholic school for 9 years, and the first science class I remember was in the 10th grade at Prospect Heights. As for math, I was always a weak math student. I was very strong in language arts and reading, and very weak in math. So, coming out of high school, even coming out of my first couple of years in college, math and science were threatening to me as a student. So when I began teaching, I said to my first principal, math is my weakest subject, because at that time when I began, we were generalists, so we had to teach every subject. And math, of course, was something. He said, "Don't worry, we'll work on it. Give you plenty of staff professional development in that area." And it wasn't so much the professional development that really helped me become a good math teacher. It was being a poor math student, that I could look at students and see myself. I could look at the students who didn't quite get the concepts, and I saw myself, and I was able to break down information and explain it to children in a way that they could handle it. And of course, I also benefited at that time from the students who were very adept at math. I learned a lot from my students.
oh,
So it was a wonderful exchange, becoming a math teacher. And when I became and when I went to middle school, and I was doing only math for a couple of years, and then they asked me to do science, that was when I really fell in love with the subject of science. That's when science changed my whole outlook towards life, towards religion, towards spirituality, towards everything. Science is an awakening. There's so much that we don't know about everyday science. And it's wonderful to see children go through that discovery phase. And I've gone through the discovery phase along with them. When I realized that there are 100 million galaxies out here, it changed my whole perspective of faith and religion and spirituality. It broadened it.
I'm so fascinated that you would take something that was actually a weakness or not even a weakness, you weren't even exposed to it until high school, and then turn it into not only a strength but something that was so far reaching for other children. And I'm fascinated with the way
I
you
don't know if you remember in high school.
huh?
I don't know if you remember in high school in 10th grade, did you have geometry?
Yes.
Did you have Mr. Bernstein?
Well, it's a funny story about Mr. Bernstein. Mr. Bernstein used to have me to teach some of his classes because there were some concepts that I understood that Miss Griffin told him I was good at.
Miss Griffin was great.
Miss Griffin was the greatest math
She
teacher.
was the greatest math teacher I ever had in my entire life. First time, but Mr. Bernstein did not know what he was doing. In
And
any
he
case,
knew it. And he knew it. And he used to have me to come in there and teach his classes. But
wow.
I've had, I mean, I could go into psychotherapy describing how that affected my life, because it affected my life. I mean, I have one friend who still talks about I taught her math in high school,
Wow.
and that's very nice. But most of those girls hated me, and they hated me because I knew math so
Mhm.
well, and I was and Mr. Bernstein, he should just sit there and let me come in there and teach these things.
Mr. Bernstein had no command of the classroom at all.
But what happened though was
Uh-huh.
I undermined my own self the next term. I
Uh-huh.
failed because I didn't want them to hate me. So that's like a real sick part of me, my whole um the psychology of Laverne that I come to grips with as a old lady, but that's another subject. In the meantime, I'm fascinated that you turned this into something of benefit to so many children, Marva.
Well, they benefited me also because they actually broadened my knowledge and my understanding of math concepts as well. I mean, I got a 29 on the geometry regents from being in Mr. Bernstein's class. And
I'm
that's
sorry, did you say you got 29?
29 on the geometry regents. And I had to go to summer school. I went to Erasmus and retake it, and I got an 87. I don't know why I always remember that, but I guess that's when I was learned that it's possible. It's possible to learn math. I thought it was impossible to learn math because I was terrible in math all my life, all my school years that I can remember. I'm still not great at math, but I'm a good math teacher because I can look at other people and see that they didn't understand the same things that I didn't understand, and to be able to zoom in on that.
Wow.
Mhm.
So your whole program is centered around that. That's
Well, math is a very important part of technology. Most of your computer programs and everything when they first came out, and even most of the what do you call it in the computer? The can't think of the name, but it's based on math. Most of what goes on with the computer is based on math concepts.
now, Marva, you feel like that deficiency in math is particularly hard on our community. Could you elaborate on that?
Well, one of the things, and this is, I guess, is interesting. It's interesting to see every generation being born with certain automatic skills. Like you can tell a 3-year old to show you something on a computer, and they know more than you. Even though you've been studying it. So what I found in my 30 years of teaching is to in today's world, you kids are much stronger in math, especially Black children. They are very, very interested. Math interests them more than anything. I guess it's connected to money. They see those types of things, but they seem to have a certain adeptness for math that we didn't have. And the other thing now, math is taught far differently than it was taught to us in the 50s and 60s. We were taught math through just rote learning, remembering this, remembering the times tables and those types of things. Today they focus on concepts. They focus on letting a child know that multiplication is just addition, done over and over again, a number of times that you want to add, and that division is related to subtraction. Um, Children learn in the very early stages. They're learning math concepts that we didn't learn until we were coming out of high school. They learned the basics of math. We didn't know that. We just learned rote. They learn concepts now. Now where things have been lost is literacy in reading and writing. And that, in my belief, it was very deliberate, very well calculated. It happened after the 60s. In fact, when you read the history of American education, our generation, our group, those of us that were educated in the 50s, and the 60s were probably the last group of American students that were really educated and taught how to read and think critically. That has was totally lost. By the time I went into the school system as a teacher in 1984, it was a culture shock to me. I couldn't believe what I saw. They first of all, it was around that time they were taking phonics, deliberately removing phonics from the reading program and introducing something called whole language and sight words. And children were taught how to read by remembering different sight words, not being able to create, to put words together phonically, and create a word and understand the whole concept of reading. That's not taught anymore. Language arts is not taught anymore. They're not teaching you how to write proper sentences and paragraphs. They're not teaching students. When I came in '84, they said don't read up their papers. Don't discourage kids by correcting every paragraph. You remember we had to analyze sentences. We learned the parts of speech. We learned all of those things that are just simply not taught anymore. And that's why that was done after the 60s. They never wanted another group like our group that stopped the war, that did the kind of things our group was able to do because we were able to read and analyze American history on our own after we got out. We had the reading skills, we had the thinking skills. We were taught how to distinguish propaganda from, fact from fiction. That just is no longer taught in school, and you can see the results of it in American society. You can see it in how we vote. Who would have thought that we'd ever have presidents like Bush and like Trump and like a half dead one like Biden? You know, all this shows is what is where we have come as America, and it's all due to the dumbing down of American education in order to control the masses, really. Our kids
And
today are brilliant. They're very smart, but they don't have the techniques of reading.
so being the boomer that you are and the the innovator that you are,
I don't know about all that.
you didn't sit by and just let this happen. You created this marvelous program, Marva. And even though it has had tremendous success, that's not enough for you. I mean, you're not looking to sit back and eat bonbons now and rest on your laurels. You're actually venturing out into a whole new town, a whole new land. And please tell us what that is all about.
Well, I actually intended to move to Atlanta since 2005 when I bought my home down here, and ended up not coming because they denied my sabbatical, which was how I was planning to come and get half my salary and get a job here in Atlanta, because the salaries in Atlanta was so much lower than DC. I thought I would ease my way in, but anyway, they denied my sabbatical at the beginning of the year, and I ended up having to go back to my job in DC, and that's when they assigned me to be the science resource teacher for the entire elementary school, for teaching all the grades, and that's when I began the learning tree over again here in DC. And one of the things that pushed me towards doing that was the fact that I don't know. The whole story of education in DC is a whole. It's a whole nother. It's for another. But this was when they brought in Michelle Reed. I don't know if you've heard of her, but she eventually became a national name. Um, the mayor had given her complete control over the school system. And she had only taught in a charter school for about 3 years. Um, um, she did not have any degrees in education. And she was elevated to be the chancellor of DC Public Schools and was given total control to do whatever. And they fired a very educated superintendent to bring her in. And they couldn't even call her a superintendent. They had to call her a chancellor because she had none of the requirements to be a superintendent. She didn't have a doctorate. She was never a principal. She never actually taught in the public school. She taught in a charter school. So it was all kind of like a political thing, but it really destroyed DC public schools.
Marva,
And
could you hold your point there? Believe it or not, we're almost out of time. I knew the time was going to go fast, but I didn't
okay,
know it was going to go that fast. But have no fear. We're going to do a part 2. So you have a few seconds. Could you
okay.
give
In
us a
response,
contact number, and then we'll come back and pick up on your.
okay. In response to what your question is, that what I'm doing down here in Atlanta is preparing to work with high school students on the STEM level.
Give me a
STEM,
contact number, and you'll get back to it. Sorry, your time is almost up, dear.
okay, what do you want? My
Give me
website,
a website, yes.
my website is www.thelearningtreeinc.org. I can be reached by phone, area code 202-710-8275. I can be reached by email, marva.berry@outlook.com or marva.berry@thelearningtreeinc.org.
Thank you, Marva. We'll be back next week.
Okay, looking forward to it.
Thanks for joining us on Link.
You are so welcome.
Okay, catch your breath. We're going to start right back up.
Okay, we're done?
Huh? We're off.
We're off? Okay.
Okay. You want to do anything, move around, or you okay?
Oh, we're going to do the second part now?
Right now.
Okay, well, give me a minute to just go blow my nose, okay? I'm sorry I'm so long-winded. Okay.
You ready?
Ready?
Okay. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good afternoon and welcome to Link. This is part 2 of our fabulous conversation with Marva Berry. Welcome back, Marva.
Thank you, Laverne. It's wonderful to be back.
I'm so glad you're here, Marva. You were in the middle of a fabulous narrative, which I want to get back to, but I don't want this other part of our program to disappear before we get into some of the nitty-gritty about the mission of the Learning Tree, some of the fabulous programs you have, and then we'll get back to talking about some other things. But let's get into some of the nitty-gritty mission of your program, okay?
Okay. Well, the mission of our program is to close the achievement gap. And that is the biggest problem our kids have right. They're learning, and there are two different worlds in the public school system. And in DC, and also these achievement gaps that are all over the country, they're very much in DC. I saw gentrification take place from the ground level. And I saw what we saw in DC, in New York. We saw gentrification happen in neighborhoods, okay, first. But in DC, there's mass gentrification throughout the city. And when gentrification occurs, one of the things that is aligned with it is the educational system. Okay. Now, these people that are moving back into predominantly Black neighborhoods are also coming back into public school systems that are below par and have always been below par. And no one has ever been concerned about them being below par. They get fewer resources than other schools. Even in a small place like DC, which is 21 square miles long, you have schools in Ward 8, which is Southeast, which is predominantly Black. You have schools in Ward 8 that are where nobody's reading on their appropriate reading level. You have schools in just a few stops away in like Ward 6, which is Capitol Hill. And you'll find that those are the best schools. Under Michelle Rhee, 40 schools were closed in DC public schools. 40 of them were closed during her reign, and they were given a reign. Her and the chancellor that followed her, they had 8 years, and this was all under Obama and Arne Duncan and the whole charter school takeover. And in DC, we went from a public school system that had small, very small compared to New York, about 88,000 children when I entered that system in 91. And by the time Michelle Rhee comes out, there are 40,000 children in the DC public school system, and 40,000 are in the charter school system, which brings all of that money, half of the budget are directed towards charter schools. Okay. Now, during the school closures, when they closed 40 schools, they were all closed in the Black neighborhoods. Students had to shift over to the more gentrified areas, and they were enrolled as out of boundary students. Parents, the PTA, the school that I was teaching in, there were only initially maybe less than 20% of students, and I would even say less than 15% at the beginning. It starts to increase over the years, but less than 15% of the students that attended the elementary schools that I was teaching in, fewer than 15% were gentrifying white students. A good 85% of the students were Black students. Most of them were out of boundary students because their schools were closed. And all of the other schools that were not closed were given complete modernization. So what you see is the resources travel with the students. DC has probably one of the highest per student rate in the country. It was about 30,000 per child. And when that child moves from the public school student to the charter school, that money moves with them. Okay, but around the middle of October, they have they do something like an audit to see how many kids are enrolled wherever they are. And after that audit is done, most of the charter schools send the kids back. They either expel them, but the money doesn't come back. They keep the money. Where I was teaching, The majority of the kids, like I said, 85, about 85% of the kids were Black kids, DC residents, but from different wards. Um, the PTA, the PTA executive board had no Black parents. The PTA ran as a school system that ran the school, basically made all the decisions and everything. And you know what AYP is? AYP is annual yearly progress. And I think it was about 2006. It was the year that I didn't get to go to Atlanta, and I was in there. And our school came up not making AYP, annual yearly progress, because the Black kids brought the scores down. Now, that's the way it was presented at a PTA meeting, with children present, with parents present, with a Black principal saying the scores. He had all the the board up, everything, showing everyone that we didn't make AYP. Basically, the data says because of the Black kids. And yet, what the PTA decided to do the following year was to start a gifted and talented program for the smart children selected by teachers, not tested smart kids, but teachers selected to enter this gifted and talented program. And I stood up in the auditorium and said, if you're claiming that these one set of kids are causing us not to make AYP, why are we giving gifted and talented? Why are we putting those resources? Because remember, the PTA, everybody pays into the PTA money. So if 85% of the school population are Black, most of that PTA money is raised by them. So why don't we have a tutorial program? Why don't we have the things that we need to bring the scores up for these kids? And eventually, what came out, just to make a long story short, what eventually was actually stated by an area superintendent is that for the scores in DCPS to raise, because DCPS, at the nation's capital, had a 59% graduation rate at the time. But what he said was that for the scores to be picked up in DC, we need more white students in the system. And in order to get more white students, we really need some more white teachers. And so what eventually happened within those next couple of years were approximately 3,500 veteran Black teachers were fired. Myself included. I was one eventually. I was one. And they brought in young college graduates, from white college graduates from all over the country, who had no understanding of children living in DC, and they gave them those jobs.
What year was that, Marva?
This would be 2007 is when and so between 2007 and 2012 is when the school system was pretty much run by Michelle Rhee and Kaya Henderson. Michelle Rhee had to leave because the city was so offended by her, that she had to resign when the next mayor came in. The mayor that appointed her lost his, he lost his job also. He got voted out. And what they brought in was Michelle's assistant, who didn't even have a master's degree when she got the job as assistant. She earned her master's degree on the job. And she also had never taught really before becoming, an exec in the school system. Michelle Reed walked out the whole district office because anybody that had a doctorate degree, she got rid of them. And at that time, DC had a lot of doctorate degrees that were working on, on the school-based level. So it was a big fight, the union and everything. And the principal that fired me was a first-time principal coming from a charter school and was only on the board of the charter school. So these are some of the things. I was a union, I was the building rep. And she wiped out the Black teachers, starting with me. She wiped out by the end of that school year, from a school staff of about 30 at the time. There might have been about 10 Black teachers left. And mind you, since they had closed the schools in Ward 8 and they closed so many of the schools in the predominantly Black areas, what you have in these newly gentrified schools are majority Black kids, but out of boundary kids. Their parent, even when this began, DC was not even providing transportation. So parents many times had to choose between poor parents had to choose between transportation to get their kids to school and buying food. And the other thing with low income families, having your neighborhood school means you can take your kids for free lunch, for free breakfast. You can take them there. Even your kids that are not enrolled, you can bring your kids there to get breakfast. All that was lost when they closed the schools. One ward, Ward 5, that's the ward my programs are in right now. But one ward, they had decimated that ward so badly that they were without a middle school in that ward for a number of years until they had to build one. So in any case, getting back to the revision of the learning tree around that time, I said to my colleagues, I said, there's no way that I, as a Black educator, can accept the fact that the kids I'm working with, the Black kids are failing. We have to do something to specifically help those kids. And that's when I reorganized the learning tree with a few other teachers, and we got the program started. And after I was fired, I took my program to the church across the street, and that was in 2012. And in 2014, we got our first grant. That was the 21st century. Well, no, it wasn't the 21st century. It was a special grant for TANF. That's the new name for welfare. And for children who were eligible for TANF and children who were homeless, we got a special grant. It was close to $200,000, $193,000 for 3 years. And that was up until 2017. And then after that, we also got funded by the United Way, and DC picked us up as a paid partner. They put us, they gave us a contract. That's what we're under now, a contract. And they pay, they reimburse us for everything we spend with our staff and materials for our children. And that has enabled us to hire professionals, to hire mainly what we're working with right now are retired teachers.
Now, Marvin, you're going into earlier your program was with like the 8 to 13s or
with elementary.
Now you're
Yes.
going into the high school
Right.
population.
Most elementary grants are for children up to age 13.
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't think that after school programs for high school students is important. And it's just as important to have concrete things, learning activities our high school students. We have high school students that still can't read on an elementary level. And not only that, STEM really becomes alive when you're working with older students that can actually implement actual STEM activities. So, one of the things that I'll plan it right now is to work with students middle school through high school, 14 and actually to age 24, because there is programming for those students. And so is also means STEM also means the technology that it requires to build things. So we have a real need in our society for builders. But
How are they responding to your how far have you gone with it now in Atlanta? Is it just an idea in the state?
well, it's emerged into we've located property in Atlanta.
Mhm.
And we've located a property that has 16 acres of land, two modern buildings on it. One of them looks like a mansion, and the other one is the other. They have 16 acres of agriculturally zoned land. And so, where we want to take environmental education right now is with older students to teach them farming, to teach them husbandry, how to take care of small animals. And we're found this property that's zoned agricultural. And so that's one of the main focuses is taking environmental science to survival skills. You know, how do you grow food? And the other thing is so many students, all my grandchildren are into the performing arts, all of them. And when you talk to kids today, they all want to enter the industry somehow. And to me, that's such a dangerous industry that it's important to guide our children. So one of the things I'd like to do with the house is to make a studio, a performing arts studio, where they can give plays, where they can give performances, but where it's something that they can hone their arts outside of Hollywood, outside of that Atlanta scene, but how to really kind of guide children into using their artistic skills for their community. Um, how do we actually, I want to see them create works of art, of performing arts that are outside of what we're seeing right now in terms of Hollywood, in terms of there's so many skilled young people that are doing foolishness, in the area of performing arts. And how can we uplift that? How can we bring that to what performing arts, what the artist, you as an artist would understand that better than anybody. How
I'm
do
trying to I'm trying to break into your beautiful narrative uh, for two reasons. One, because we're going to be out of time very soon.
again, I know.
And two, well, three reasons. The second reason is Marva, you know I love you, you know I admire you. But Marva, you look like you're trying to change the world. And I I I'm with you, but I want to know what we can do to help you. I mean, the
Um,
money,
I
I
have
want you to get all the money you're trying to get, but that's a little bit. It's really a little bit. And I
mhm.
want you to get, people are wealth. People are wealth. Our labor is wealth. What can we do? Tell us what we can do without
Well, I've been getting a
money.
fundraising
I,
campaign.
you can't this is not this is public access. So I
Right.
actually invite you to make a real commercial pitch, but I want you to tell us what can we do? I mean, I want you to get this house. I want you to get this land. Everything you're talking about, it just moves me so much. But I want to know, should all of the teachers who care pack up and come to Georgia and help you? I mean, what?
No, I would say a lot of teachers should do what I'm doing.
And I'm not
Start a
joking.
little program in your neighborhood, right where you are, bloom where you're planted. Work with the kids. That's where we began, working with the kids in our neighborhood. There's plenty of teachers in Atlanta that I'm going to tap on. Plenty of retired teachers, plenty of people down here. Right now, we are trying to buy this property. The cost of this property is $950,000. We put in an offer and he's accepted our offer of 920. And that's, it's not a lot of money, but it's not a mortgage that I can get. It's a jumbo mortgage. And so that's our first appeal that we were looking at. We have $100,000 from our leftover from our PPP money that we can have a down payment for. And so we're looking for high-end high-end donors to really make large contributions. And most recently, last month, we were informed by the seller that he's willing to hold the mortgage with a down payment of $300,000. And we have a third of that. So I see that coming. We're looking at foundation funding. We're looking at our wealthy Black celebrities, a lot of them down here in Atlanta. And we're going to begin the process of looking at that. And even after our program begins, we're going to still need, even if we get in with this $300,000, we'll be able to start our program and people will see what we're doing. And I don't think fundraising is going to be as hard. But I can say what folks can do is spread the word. Last week, I gave you my website. We have a funding site. Any of those things I can share. And if you have any $1 million listeners, 50 to 100,000 would help us right away and get us started. So you can't get funding so much to buy property from federal funding. You can get funding for programs, but buying property and stuff like that, you have to go through foundations and celebrities and people who can make large donations. But any donation will be helpful. So I can share with you that information, basically, without making this a commercial a pitch. Yeah. Because we really, more so than anything, when we're dealing with our children, that's our future. And what we leave behind right now is our legacy. It's what we've contributed to the planet for our time here. And as long as we're here, as long as we so many of us now from our age group have a lot of skills that we can impart to younger people. And and you can start anywhere. And most importantly, we should be starting in our own communities, organizing our neighborhood public school. That public school belongs to all of us. It doesn't belong just to the school system. You're a stakeholder in your neighborhood public school. Go to the PTA meetings. You don't have to have children there in the school to go to a PTA meeting. Go to public meetings. School board meetings are public meetings. Most politicians start as school board members. That's the beginning of politics in America.
So you want to give us some telephone numbers and websites and
yes. My website is thelearningtreeinc.org. Thelearningtreeinc.org. All one word before the dot. My business cell number is 202 710-8275. I have a donation. I have to look up the send the information with exactly if you want to make a donation. In fact, what I can send you is a letter that has that information. I don't have it in my hands right now. I'd have to go into my computer, but um,
And your website, one more time, Marva?
the learningtreeinc.org.
Marva, we have just a few seconds left.
Mm-hmm.
I want to thank you again. And I don't want to run my mouth about how much I adore what you're doing. So I'm going to give these last 10 seconds to you to say your parting words to my audience.
My parting words are our children are our future. Whether we are parents or not, our children, our time on earth, this next generation, these next few generations are our responsibility. And that's what we should be doing at our age is caring for and guiding the next generation. And however it's done, after school programs are some of the best ways. It occupies kids. Instead of talking about all the kids that are robbing, that are doing this, that are out there doing it, we as individuals can start working with our neighborhood kids. That's
Thank you, Marva.
you're so welcome.
Thank you, Marva. Good night.
Okay. Take
Good night,
care.
everybody, and thank you so much for joining us on Link.
Are we off?
We are off. Oh my God. I'd like to go on and on and
I
on.
talk so much. I'm so sorry.
And there was so much I wanted to say and but you said so much. Oh my God, that's so wonderful. Oh wow. Oh my God. Marva, we did it.
We did.
I really got cold feet at the last minute, and my grandchildren were like, "You can do it, Granny. You can do it, Granny." Because I didn't know how I was going to. It was, the numbers. Anyway.
Right. I'm seeing all that you're working with. That's far more than just a regular Zoom, you know?
Huh?
What you're working with all those gadgets up there, that screen, you're probably working with a lot more than a regular Zoom, you know?
Well, yeah, and plus we just moved over here to this building, and they have
Okay.
a whole lot of glitches to work out a lot.
Okay.
I mean, I can't really hear us. Really, I'm just stretching to hear both of us talk.
No, wait a minute. Let me call you because we can
Listen, it's not you at all. It's the speaker.
Okay.
Speaker. But he said that the recording equipment is intact and that the
Oh,
recording is
okay.
going to be fine. I'm just not hearing it right now. So
Okay.
now let me tell you what I have to do. I have to get out of here
Uh-huh.
and I have to pack up in here. So I will we'll talk in the next day or two. And I have
Okay.
to chop this up and make 2 shows out of it.
Okay.
And I'm not sure. What are we going into July? Oh, excuse me.
Next week is July, child. So what are you doing? Are you coming down? What?
Huh?
Next week is July.
I don't even know if I get down there to Georgia, I'll probably never leave. So I'm not coming. I probably won't come. I already told my cousins that I was coming, and they're all like, I don't know.
What do you mean you probably won't come?
Huh?
Did you just say you probably won't come?
Yeah, I probably won't come.
Why?
Because I get stuck down there.
So what? You got something else to do?
Yeah, I know how you people are. Marva, good night, Marva. Say good night, Gracie. Now, how do we cut this off? Did Ramona tell you how to do it?
Well, it should say leave. If you go down, if you pull it up, it should say down there where you can, it says, I see end here. I can press end and see, but it usually has leave the meeting. And I don't see that here. So I'm gonna press end. What do you have there?
I don't have anything. I can't see anything.
Okay, hold, let me see what happens. End. Yeah, it says end meeting for all or leave the meeting. You want me end meeting for all?
Yeah, end meeting and we'll talk, okay?
Okay, so I'm gonna end meeting for all.